You red eye?
Yeah. Always ready, man. I talk for a living.
Okay, here we go. So shut up.
Do it.
Two village idiots with a love-hate relationship.
See, you got fat. So you still look like a 15-year-old girl, but not hot.
Who can't stop arguing over Oklahoma sports.
You know what, man? Why am I still talking to you?
Come on, we were doing good there, man.
It's the Just Okay Sports Podcast.
Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast. I am your village idiot, Daryl, and I am here with my brother, J-Rod. A kiss.
Yep, I'm here.
What's up, man?
Yeah, what's up? Sorry, we had a little funny moment before stream, so I'm still trying to
recover.
Yeah.
Well, as you are still recovering, pulling yourself together, don't forget to leave a comment, a 5-star review, subscribe, follow, all those different things. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere that you can find your podcast. So check us out. Give us some love. Give us some help. So we can feel better about ourselves. That's about it. So anyways, how's your week?
Dude, this week has been stupid. I thought last week was stupid. This week's been stupider. Just working a lot, man. But I hopefully kind of getting a little bit of a reprieve for the next, couple of weeks at least. And then I'm like out for like most of October. So I'm just it's like I've got I need like one of those giant countdown clocks in my office because I'm just so ready. But no, it's been good, man. I've been really hitting the gym a lot harder this week. So that's been just, I think it's kind of crazy how much better you can feel if you just work out a little bit more, so.
Sure.
But yeah, everything's good, man. How are you?
Same, work's been busy, but it's just, it's school's back. And so it's, meet the teacher, parent orientation, football's kicked up for Tal. So it's 3 practices a week. And he had a game in Mustang the other night till 10 o'clock at night. So we were out there doing that. And so it's just, it's running all over the place. Logan started cross country. So she had a cross country meet last Friday. She's got one again this Friday, again in Mustang. So just driving, hauling all over the place. It just feels like we wake up and go, and, pretty much do that till it's bedtime. I mean, heck, even tonight, you can attest, I walked in the door at 9:10, 9:11 for a 9:30 podcast tonight. So.
Yeah, what's funny about that is I didn't even text you back because I was just so I got home before that, but a buddy of mine's house is where I go work out, and his wife was making these shrimp tacos that I'm they're to die for, and so she was making them and she's like, yeah, you should stay for dinner and all that, and so they were both wanting me to stay, so I ate dinner and then I was and I felt bad because I'd eat and then be like, all right guys, I gotta go bye. I ran home and took a shower and changed, and so I literally barely beat you, but that's kind of how the week's been. It's been I feel like I'm always 5 minutes late to everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's been crazy. So anyways, and also as we get ready to start actually diving into the real stuff here as week 0 approaches, we're going to be talking recruiting, the close of camp, all that stuff. Also, don't forget we do live stream this. So if you're listening in podcast form, go to Twitch, find J Rodicus ZL1, and you can find
the emphasis is more on ZL1. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's the cool part, right?
Yeah, that's the coolest thing about me. I got you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
So go and check us out on there and interact. We've got a few people in chat tonight, and we love that. So hopefully there's a little interaction.
Nemo's going to pull up.
Nemo is going to pull up for sure, but
and do we want to mention what we kind of discussed, a potential date to circle on the calendar? Do we want to mention
why not? Yeah, again, there's some details to still figure out, but yes, go right ahead. Fill them in, J-Rod.
Why? Okay. So we've been talking about having a Just Okay Sports barbecue or cookout or get together, whatever. And so we tentatively are planning on October 22nd. Is that correct?
Yes.
So
yes.
that's the bye week for OU. So you won't have to worry about competing with watching the game or whatever. And so we're still working out the details of like kind of where and what time and some of those things. But October 22nd seems like the date. So
yep, that's what we're targeting. Got to clear some things with the kids and the wife, all those things. But again, I knew that unless we can't afford private tailgate areas. So, we can't do that at the game. God. And then, you got that action. Everybody wants to go to the game anyway. They don't really care about coming to the cookout. So it's like, the season's already here. So let's hit the bye week. Makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. I'm still so on the fence about the whole tailgating thing. I don't want to get into it too much, but we're
gonna talk about it. So
yeah. But anyway, so yeah, no, it definitely be a good time. Like I said, it'd be cool just to meet some people. Like I met Nemo at the game. I didn't get to meet Swayze, and some of the others that I think were at the game just because time restriction. So and then Swayze, like here's the thing about Swayze. I gotta trash on Swayze for a second here. So Swayze like is texting me and he's like, or messaging me on Discord. And he's like, yeah, man, like we're headed to this corner. Which corner are you at? And I was like, we're at this corner, and I texted him and told him, and he was like, oh, okay. Don't hear anything for like 30 minutes. And like we're both sitting there just like looking like a bunch of dopes. And finally he as I'm walking towards to get in line, he's like, oh, we're on the other side of the stadium, so it's going to be like 30 minutes before I can get to you. And I was like, okay, bro. Swayze's in chat too, so he's having to throw down in chat. Anyway, so I was like, dude, I wouldn't, if I had stayed, I would have been the game, like the spring game would have been started by the time you met up with me. And then y'all just gave me crap about it. Oh, you're going to your club seats. It costs $15. I was like, or 25. It was 25.
Yeah.
25 compared to 15, like come on.
That's like a 50 to 75% increase somewhere in that neighborhood. I'm not good at the math, but it's somewhere in there. Yeah, some of us can't go 50% higher on the cost of things.
Yeah, Swayze. What's bad about that is Travis Skoll was like, he's like, oh, Mr. High Society.
Yes,
like even he was, and I was like, bro. And Swayze says, God forbid you can't make it in time to get your shoes shined by your butler. Daryl is a real OG for staying.
That's right, baby.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
He's still dope. Anyway, so let's go ahead. Do you want to get into the entertainments? Like, how do you want to start this?
I wanted to start there because I feel like we're late to this one. We haven't really talked about it, but I finally watched it. You finally watched it. So we usually do entertainment kind of at the end. So I thought we'd talk some entertainment and mainly the Manti Te'o documentary. Like, by the way, I thought was very well done. It filled in a ton of details into this thing.
Like everybody knew that. It was so weird as I was like, everybody knew the story to some degree, right? Like they knew that it was fake and all that, obviously. But it's like, dude, the amount of like just the craziness of it was actually very surprising. Yeah, I mean, let me just put it this way. To me, the person that obviously did it, I don't think Manti Te'o. Like, what was funny is like they were still like at the end, they're like people still question if Manti Te'o did it. I left the documentary feeling like pretty confident he had nothing to do with it.
Okay, so let's just say this because I don't think this ruins anything. One of the people that is a pretty key fixture in the documentary is his roommate, right? Yeah. Like, and his roommate says the person who catfished him deserves an Oscar because he says I bought into it. Like, and I mean, he talks about multiple phones, the FaceTiming, the multiple people, I will say this, after watching it, 100%, I was a guy that probably for 6 months after all that stuff broke was like, this dude knew. Like, he tried to create a story to bolster the Heisman chance and all that stuff. And now after watching this, I feel like an absolute jerk. An absolute jerk.
Yeah. What's funny about that is actually Kenny Stills, he tweeted out, he's like, man, Manti Te'o must have got the bag for having to retell this story. I was like, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty interesting documentary. Like I said, and the individual that did it was clearly disturbed,
But you know what? Okay, so I'm trying to think of how to not ruin it. Everybody, if you know anything about the story, you know a guy was pretending to be a girl. You should know that part of the story, right? Like, and now that guy is transitioning. Is that the politically correct word?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I don't.
But here's what I thought was very interesting, and this again, it's not ruining anything.
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
Was the caption within the deal on the second episode when it says when we started filming this and putting this together, he was not transitioning.
Yeah.
Like,
it's the whole thing. It's not just like, I mean, I'm not like highlighting that, but it's just like there's so many things that this person did. Like again, not just like Dr. Phil's on it, and like Dr. Phil, think about Dr. Phil, who's seen some of the most insane stuff, and then like he was even like, what? Like he was like, I was very uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like it was almost funny watching him almost freak out a little bit.
And the other thing that I will say, just to end on this, is you need to go watch it because it definitely helps you. And again, remembering that back this far back, this was the beginning of things like Facebook. This was the beginning of, catfishing, again, wasn't even a term. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much of that. But the other thing that really was, and I was so glad they talked about, was, again, now I want to be clear, I hate Deadspin for what they've recently done on the OU front. Still do. But they even talk about when they released this story and put it out there, the whole point for them was to point the finger back at the New York Times, ESPN, NBC, all these news organizations that for almost a year ran with this story and all the tragedy and this and this and this and this, and never fact checked it. They never once fact checked it.
And the thing is like, it was pretty wild because there's like, they even talked about, they're like, we wanted to beat everybody to the punch. We're like, we got this tip, we wanted to beat everybody. So it was like, they really didn't give, like, basically both sides said that they didn't give, like, Deadspin did not give Manti Te'o and his team or whatever adequate time to really respond to it. Right. Yeah. Like, and so it was such a, it's a terrible thing. And it's one of those things that to me, it's very, like, aside from all the recent stuff, it's like, just if you watch a documentary, it's like, you're going to come out thinking Deadspin is sleazy for what they did. And,
yeah, for sure. I mean, they definitely were trying to give a big middle finger to mainstream media.
Yeah. There's one guy that's from Deadspin that's on there that I'm like, dude, you're the most, like, can't read the room person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah. 100%. But like, again, that's the thing. Like, when I look back on it, I never once thought to myself, well, man, ESPN got fooled. You know what I'm saying? Like, all I could think was Manti Te'o created this story or was a part of this story. Like, that's all I could think about. But I never thought about these $1 billion corporations that did not actually get this right or do their due diligence on it.
Yeah, it's really, it's like I said, it's crazy. Like, the journalistic integrity as a whole is kind of like the main focus of it. And yeah, like you said, there's definitely an aspect to it of, like, I mean, it's kind of like I said, in some way, yes, ESPN and New York Times and all that probably should have done more due diligence, but it's like, at the same time, this was such a new phenomenon, and like, it's so absurd to think anybody would lie about it, right? Especially somebody that has not done anything, has not partaken in anything questionable before. Like, he was kind of like the choir boy of college football.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not to say that it's, it's just one of those things of, again, people forget this was the beginning of Facebook. This is catfishing really wasn't well known as a thing. There was, it just a different time. And it's so weird because it's like, it really wasn't that long ago because what 2012 I think is when he got drafted.
Yeah, but 11 is the 11 season that it was blowing up.
It's like 11 doesn't seem like that far ago, but then it's like they show like screenshots of like the face, and I'm like, dude, oh my god, that's forever ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was definitely good. So definitely go watch it. They're doing one also on like they did. I don't know if they already did one. They're doing one on like the and one.
Yeah. No, they're already out. You can actually we started the hockey one, the crimes and something hockey one that's like connected to the mob or whatever. But we're only like halfway into episode 1.
Yeah. That's basically I mean that's where I definitely have to check those out. Now, one thing I want to do before we get out of entertainment, real quick, because I know Nemo would never forgive me. House of Dragons started.
Oh yes,
first episode. You still have not watched Game of Thrones, which blows my mind.
Not even an episode. Not even one.
Anyway, House of Dragons started. It's good so far. We'll see how good it ends up being going forward, but it's pretty good. So, and then like Lord of the Rings, I think starts this weekend.
Isn't it this weekend? I think so.
Sunday. I think the first episode releases like Sunday or something.
Oh dang, we're podcasting again, by the way, on Sunday.
Yeah,
so you're welcome, people.
Yeah. So there'll be a lot to do Sunday. I'm gonna be doing the podcast, and I gotta go watch House of Dragons, and I gotta go watch the Lord of the Rings. It's like, dude, I'm gonna be sitting in front of a screen for my entire life on Sunday.
Oh man, that's wild. So,
well,
let's get
Nemo. By the way, says watch the damn show, Daryl.
I'll see what I can do. I know my wife would really like it. So
yeah, it is really good. It's really dark. Definitely don't watch it with the kids around, but it is really good.
Very good. Well, let's get into some football now. Let's start with Sooners. Camp closes out, and as camp closes, and talking to people, reading other articles, listening to other podcasts, et cetera, just kind of want to go through the information that we know coming out of camp thus far. And obviously, one of the first things that kind of came out as camp wound up was Brennan Walker, who was a Oklahoma City prospect, had to medically retire because of back injuries. So this is just bad. You never want to hear this, although he is getting to stay on as like very much like Jeremiah Cradell, who we had on the podcast, talking about having to quit from concussions, but able to stay around the team and involved and all those things. But it appears that his back just could not hold out. And again, one of the guys I picked as a breakout player last year, kind of being a rush guy and just apparently could not stay healthy.
Yeah, and apparently Swayze, and I'm not saying this one's a medical thing, but just to talk about people no longer on the team, Parker Thune just tweeted out the I think it's Wete. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Wete. Joseph Wete.
Wete. He is no longer on OU's roster, and his number is now CJ Colden.
Oh. Interesting. Yeah. Not fully surprising. It has not gone great for Joseph since he's arrived there, as far as a guy that was like a 4-star prospect that's just not really found the field. But anyways,
that's not some earth shattering, the season's not going to collapse because he's not with the team. So,
right. Although, again, a guy that by all accounts worked hard, was a good locker room, all of those things. So, I mean, again, I always want to be careful in these kind of situations. Like, yeah, we're not going to be terrified about the season, but do hate to see him go in the sense that he was a really good teammate and a really good worker. So with all those things. Now, the bigger news that I think that has come out of camp, which we were all kind of wondering, you had heard about Deshaun White's name some, I had heard it some, podcasts like OK Breakdown, all those, like, the name Deshaun White kept coming up, and I just didn't know if that meant that, okay, him, Stutzman, and Agwebu are going to kind of rotate in at that Mike Will backer spot, like what's going on. But now, OK Breakdown, Teddy Lehman talking about he's the cheetah position. So he's playing that Sam outside backer out in space kind of position. And so that a little bit surprising. Would not have guessed that's where he would be, but I'm kind of excited about it. What are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, he's been a guy that has, we've heard about his athleticism. We've even seen some of his athleticism. So it's going to be interesting to see him play that position. It's one of those things that I'm excited because anything, just in defense in general, I'll just put it that way. Venables isn't going to just he's not going to roll the dice. Like, he knows what he's doing. Right. So, it's going to be, I'm excited. And it's going to be one of those things that I think it's going to be a great, at least, opportunity for him to shine. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, showcase maybe some of that athletic ability and, things like that. So.
Yeah. I mean, I love it just in the sense that this is a guy that stuck it out. There never has seemed to have been a hint of him wanting to transfer or to go somewhere else and restart. And, man, he's been through – I mean, Tim Kish is the one who got him here, gone. Grinch comes in and leaves in the middle of the night. He's still here. I mean, he's just, everything that you want in a guy that's about the program he's been.
And I think he was pretty close to Odom and Kane as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the fact that he's still on the roster is kind of – it's kind of one of those things. I think it's one of those. I think the guys that you have left on the roster stayed in a very large part due to the brotherhood they had with each other rather than the coaching staff, right? So, which is that's cool. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting move. But again, I think that's things we're gonna have to start seeing, because if you think back to Venables' era of football at OU previously, or even at Clemson, is he would find these guys and put them in somewhere where at first glance, you're like, I don't know how this is going to work out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But he ended up finding a way to utilize that guy in a special way. But yeah, it's huge. And by the way, my buddy Nautical, who's a big A&M fan, he's in chat too. So we got all kinds here.
Oh, Lord.
We even let the A&M guys in.
Interesting.
So I love Nautical. We give each other a hard time. But anyway.
Yeah. And so to kind of piggyback off the Deshaun White news, the other name that we continually kept hearing was Justin Harrington, right? His name has come up, I mean, time and time again. Now, I can't say that I ever heard specifically that he was the cheetah position, right? But that was my assumption, right? Like, for me, in my mind, I had, okay, it's Key Lawrence and it's Bowman at safety. And if Justin Harrington is popping off the page and is just this unbelievable player, then he's at that cheetah nickel position, right? Like, that's just kind of where my head went. But now kind of hearing the Deshaun White news, and again, Teddy Lehman even talked about this, that apparently Justin Harrington is maybe going to take over the starting spot at safety, which I don't think any of us saw that coming for sure, coming into camp and coming out of camp.
Well, and I wonder, because I know that Venables has said, like, being a senior or, upperclassman or whatever is like he said in plenty of interviews, like, that means something to him. Right. So, and obviously Harrington, I think, isn't he a redshirt or a senior?
Think so, but I think he still has another year, COVID year, that he can use.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to highlight real quick, because this is like the hands across borders or whatever. Nautical said, at least y'all aren't Texas fans, and we can all agree. We can all agree on that.
We can all agree on that.
Yeah,
we can all agree on that.
But yeah, no. So yeah, Harrington. I mean, again, it's also one of those things that it's a different mindset, right? Because I think we've also heard rave reviews about his work ethic and how bought in he is, and how he was welcomed back as a walk on, right? Like, there's so many reasons for him just to throw his hands up and be like, I don't care. And from all accounts, he's probably the hardest working, or one of the hardest working people on the team. So I think that plays a part into it. And so part of it surprised me and part of it doesn't, right? Like, in some sense, I think that, especially what we've talked about in previous weeks, I think they're going to rotate so much anyway. I don't think it's like your starting safety is going to be out there for 95% of defensive plays, right? Like it's going to be a split load. So, so part of it surprised me, part of it doesn't.
Yeah, and again, some other podcasts have talked about this as well. I could see a scenario where if Harrington's playing so great and if Deshaun White is playing so great that maybe on early rundowns or short yardage downs, right? Deshaun is that cheetah. Harrington's back at safety. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But then if we're playing a team that's just going to want to throw it all over the yard, maybe Deshaun rotates out a little bit more. Harrington rotates down into that nickel/cheetah position, and Key Lawrence comes in at that free safety position. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's definitely some versatility that they could do there to move some things around. But yeah, man, I mean, again, remember, this was a guy too that almost didn't make it back on the team. I mean, even when it started to get kind of reported that he was back, even Venables was very non-committal at that point of, well, he's got some things he's going to have to do before we let him back here. And like you said, walk on. Remember, this was the number one JUCO cornerback in the nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
coming out
was hyped about him.
Yeah. And for him to come back as a walk-on, to do whatever it was that Venables required of him to get back, man, again, shows that there is some brotherhood there that he did not want to let go of. And let's be real, who doesn't want to get coached by BV and Jay Valai if you have the opportunity?
Yeah, and I was going to say, a lot of it has to do with that, and I think a lot of it, too, is just that he is – you want to cheer for him, right? Like, if you're going to – like I said, all the things we just listed about him easily could have walked away, could have gone to another team, could have done a million things. Right. And the fact that he stayed, came back as a walk-on and, now is fighting maybe for a starting spot or at least a heavy play in the rotation or whatever. Like, you got to cheer for it. Like, I mean, I don't, it's like OU's own little Rudy story almost. It's so, like I said, it's kind of surprising. But again, it kind of also goes to show that, this defense has a lot more talent than I think we all realized, and it almost I'm not going to be surprised if our defense isn't. I still say like we're not going to be like a top 10 defense or something crazy, but I would definitely say our defense is going to be better this season, and I think it's going to be kind of evident as we get through the season that the previous staff wasted a lot of the talent that's on this, like, because I mean it's most of it is from the previous coaching staff. It's their players. So it'll be interesting to see. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be a fun season.
Yeah, for sure. And so to keep kind of running down the list of things going on as camp closes out, I think some of the other names for you to really keep an eye on, that again, not sure what it's going to come of it, but just when we think about the consistent things that we heard throughout camp, Tyler Guyton, man, that name comes up over and over and over and over again. Now, does he start? I don't think so. I don't think so. But I do think you're going to see him get playing time. And maybe this year's not the payoff. Maybe it's next year. But what you can see is that they like him a lot. And I did not know this until kind of going back and doing some research. I believe I may have this backwards now. Sorry, I should have typed it in when I was reading it earlier.
Just okay. We're just okay.
I believe TCU brought him in actually as a defensive end and then moved him to tight end. And then he kind of ballooned up and moved into the tackle position. So all that to say, his experience at actual O-line play is really low. So for him to be getting this much buzz this early could be a really, really good thing. So,
I mean, look at Lane Johnson, right? Like he in some way had a similar trajectory because he was tight end and then moved to tackle. And Nemo, by the way, asked, is it just okay crew going to any games this year? I'm sure. I don't know. We haven't talked about both of us going to the same game or whatever. I mean, obviously we'd prefer that, but we haven't set anything in stone.
He hasn't invited me to his suite yet, Nemo. Is what he's saying.
It's really hard to get security to clear. Plebs, I guess, to the box. So anyway, no, we do plan to go to some. and I don't know if you were here earlier, Nemo, but we are planning the cookout. We'll put the details in the Discord, so you can know the date. At least get a date put down. We haven't worked out all the details yet, but we'll put the date so that way you can get it marked down.
Yep. So, look, we along with Tyler Guyton, right, and all those things, and the Lane Johnson trajectory, we've also been constantly told here the last 2 weeks that we've got two full, basically, offensive lines that are ready to play very elite offensive line ball at.
Hang on. Just everybody, Dark Daryl has entered the chat. All right, so.
No,
You're going to go down this road.
No, I'm being very positive here. I'm asking you, who do you feel starts the year off on the offensive line? And do you think that some of these other 4 or 5 elite talented offensive linemen work their way in as the year ends? That's what I'm coming to ask. That's a very positive question.
Yeah, but you've been railing that they've been saying like they said that for like 5 years in a row and all
They
that.
have said it for 5 years in a row.
Honestly, I have no not to not answer your question, but it's like I also have no idea. Like there's obviously like Rame and the stuff like that are you kind of know they're going to be playing. But outside of that, it's like, man, I don't know because again, there's so much unknown with how guys have reacted to or grown with the Schmitty workouts and with fall camp and just how the work ethic's been and the change of, everything. And even like really another thing people are forgetting is while it's not drastically different what Lebby does to what Tebow does, at the same time, it is a different offensive scheme. So there may be guys that fit what he wants to do a little bit better than others. So
sure,
that's why I say like I have no idea. Like you could give me a names and I would throw them out on the table and whatever 3 or 4 or 5. There's pretty much 3 spots that we're going to be talking about. That you could say, I'd say yeah, those are the starters because I have no idea.
Yeah. Like for me, the 2 absolutely locked in starters on this line are Andrew Rame and Anton Harrison. I don't think those guys are going anywhere. And then we'll see what happens after that. If you ask me the start of the year, I think it's going to be Anton, and then I think it's going to be Matauer. Matauer is the old receiver that we had to get rid of. Rame in the middle, Chris Murray, and then Wanye Morris, right? I think that's going to be your 5 to kind of kick the year off. Could Tyler Guyton end up taking over a tackle spot? I think so. And while the name hasn't come up a whole lot the last week or so, I still think Savion Byrd is a name that could slide into this line as well, at a guard position or a tackle position. So I think those 2 guys could potentially work into there. So, I mean, we'll see. I need to see this offensive line be everything that we're told that it is and can be. I am still very much on a wait and see mode because we've heard these kinds of statements about everybody on this line for several years, and I'm confident that the Schmitty change is going to have a big impact there. But there's also a chance it doesn't, right? Just like we all assumed that Spencer Rattler was going to be a Heisman Trophy finalist just because, and then that didn't happen, right? So we just don't know. So we'll see what comes of it.
And Swayze says Beatenbow needs to come on the podcast so Daryl can tell him he's wrong. Nemo says Murray, Morris, McCade, Rame, and Harrison. That's, I guess, his starting lineup.
Yeah. I would agree with that. With that.
So but like I said, I also feel like, time will tell, but I feel like there's going to be also a lot of plug and play in the first few games. Like, luckily for OU, they don't have a super stout opponent to start their schedule, so they can kind of, you might see first, especially against UTEP, you're probably going to see a lot of plug and play of different guys.
Yeah, I hope so. And like you said, and I hope they show out the way that they should. So the other news coming out of camp as well is Davis Bevel, it sounds like, has really locked up the number 2 position, which I think that was something that we were all intrigued by because there's a lot of guys in that room between Nick Evers and General Booty, who, by the way, great merch. Should go check it out. Get you some of that. And Davis Bevel. But it seems as though Bevel's really taken over at that backup role. So if something were to happen, that's who you're going to. Do you feel good about that?
Well, I mean, I don't want to think about our starting quarterback getting hurt, but yeah, I mean, I also think, like, he didn't play obviously a ton at Pitt, but it's still a big, like, I think it's gonna be fine. Like, I think he's very serviceable. And like I said, if you really, again, I think the brilliance of the way Levy offense works is if you look at the teams that have utilized it, they've been able to utilize mediocre quarterbacks to an insane extent just based on the scheme, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's going to be. I think that's why it's not going to matter too much. But I do think he's, I think he's a really good quarterback still. So as far as a backup goes, he's probably one of the better backup quarterbacks in the Big 12, at least.
Yeah. Well, he definitely brings the experience, right? And he's played in some bowl games. He's played in some big moments, and that's one thing you can definitely say about him over General Booty and Nick Evers that does make me feel comfortable. I don't feel like that's a guy that's going to lead us to victories per se, but I do think he's going to be able to command the team and manage everything well. So, yeah. All right. So coming out of camp, 10 days away from kicking the season off, who is your freshman standout? Do you think that will come up this season? Now that we've wrapped up all the training camp stuff, who would be your standout freshman, both offensively?
It has to be a freshman.
Yes, has to be a freshman. And if it's I will even allow a redshirt freshman that maybe didn't see the field last year that you think could pose himself in there, but I'm thinking more on the true freshman side.
Okay, well, offense, I think it's kind of an easy pick, and that's Gavin Sawchuk, right?
Okay.
Just because we've heard so much about him. I know that obviously Eric Gray is going to get a lot of love and all that. But I don't think it's like, when I say that, I don't think he's going to, come out and as the number 2 running back put up, 1,500 yards of rushing or something insane. But I think he's going to have those moments where you're going to see something special. So I think in that way he'll be a breakout. Now on defense, oh man, I don't know. There's so many guys, and like I said, I think not to say he's against it, but I think Venables is so much less prone to playing freshmen than other coaches, modern coaches, I guess, to some extent. But man, I don't know. I want to say, man, I'm gonna have to think about that. Because there's just so many guys. And now I just thought of one, and his name slipped my mind. What's the linebacker kid?
Jaron Kanik.
Well, Jaron Kanik. I wasn't gonna say him, but no, he's
McKenzie? Kobe McKenzie?
Kobe McKenzie, yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't think for some reason, as dumb as I am, I could think McKenzie. I couldn't think of Kobe. So Kobe McKenzie is probably I'm gonna say, not because he's gonna, again, I think they're both gonna be those players that are gonna come in, when you got a lead or something like that. But I think when they're gonna be on the field, you're gonna be like, holy crap, these guys got something.
Yeah. Here's another thing that I think is interesting. When you think about this question of freshmen impacting offense or defense, I think there's way less opportunities and spots available on defense, which has been our Achilles heel, than there is on offense.
Right.
Do you agree with that? I think that's so strange to think like offense has been the bread and butter and all this great recruiting we've had on that side. But for me, I think the freshman that is going to have the biggest impact and stand out this year is Jaden Gibson. I think, red zone type situations, that kind of stuff, I think he's going to really be used. And like I told you, when they got him, if his film is at all accurate, to have that kind of length and height and to run the routes he runs and to run with the speed that he runs with is very impressive. And so I think it's him on offense, and it sounds like he's really had some buzz here the last couple of weeks. And then the other side of the ball, I'm going to go off the radar here. I'm going to go R. Mason Thomas. I'm going to go R. Mason Thomas, which is a defensive end out of Florida. from different little reports and buzz, we'll see what happens when it's real deal game time. It sounds like if it's a running down, there's still a lot to be worked out there. But if it's a legitimate passing down, it sounds like this kid just has a natural knack for getting to the quarterback. And so I could see him having that role of 3rd and 10 plus. We're going to plug him in, and with him and Stripling on each side, and just turn those dudes loose to go after the quarterback, which I think could be really fun. So that's my picks for that.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes total sense. Like I said, but there's so much, and that's again, it's another thing. There's so much talent in this freshman class. I mean, that was one of the best class. It was like the best class in 8 years or something, as far as rating or whatever. So there's a lot of talent that could definitely break out on both sides of the ball as a freshman. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to keep up with some of these guys.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. The last thing coming out of camp. This was an interesting thought, and I wanted to ask you this really quick and just see what you thought, which kind of excites me. But I was listening to somebody the other day talk about this, and they were talking about how physical, right, the practices have been. Kay Matuire was on the other day for the Strengthening Oklahoma stuff and was talking about how there will be nobody that out-toughs them this season. They will be the toughest football team they face because of how camp's gone, all that stuff. We keep talking about how much our tackling is going to be improved. Like we've talked about that for weeks, that we expect the tackling to be better. The spring game, the tackling looked better, right? More physical, more violent. How much does all of that help the offense going into the season?
I mean, look, let's take last season as an example of non-physical practices, because Riley was notorious for that, right? You got to a game early in your season where you played Tulane, right? And Tulane kind of took you to the wire.
Right.
And it was just because they were playing physical. They weren't a talented team, right? They just played physical. And then you got to Nebraska, and it's really looking back at it, it's like, especially how I know Nebraska was like 4-9 or something last season or whatever, or 4-8 or whatever they were. But at the same time, it's like they were probably the best 4-win team in the country by a long mile. They're probably better than a lot of bowl eligible teams because they played down to the wire with a lot of really good teams. But anyway, you played those two teams, and it's like, dude, you could just tell like there was a physical. They got punched in the mouth, and they didn't know what to do because they hadn't. You could just tell that they hadn't had any contact, right? And so it's a very. I think it's going to be very beneficial. I think when you get to like UTEP's going to be a good. Hopefully a tune-up. I hate to say tune-up game with sound like I'm disrespecting UTEP, but at the same time,
you are. You 100% are. Yeah.
You should be able to manhandle UTEP, and I think we're going to see it's going to be a perfect showcase for both the offense and defense to show how physical they are.
Yeah. Here's the area that I think that helps the most in that I'm interested to look at. I'm interested to look at the last 2 or 3 years of fumbles lost by the offense. And how many we have this year. Because that's one of those things, it's like when I think about how tackling all the way to the ground and playing that physical, really, I think it obviously helps the offensive line and those kinds of things. It probably helps your running backs run tougher, or whatever. But I think ball security, like when you're taking legitimate hits and it'll just be really interesting to see if it really does help in that vein. I think that's the biggest way. And then obviously just finding that groove and that tenacity to break tackles. And so I think it could make the year fun. So anyways, that's kind of the notes on camp, closing it out, finishing out, getting through that. No massive major injuries, which is a big deal. And now, 3 days away from week 0, you can watch UTEP, you can watch Nebraska, and you should see what it is that's going to be coming to town, and that we're going to be going to see in a couple weeks and getting that off.
And into UTEP's defense, UTEP like every few years or whatever, they filled a pretty good team. So you can't really just say that they're just a bad team. Like they might be pretty decent. So yeah, definitely check them out.
Right, absolutely. Again, another thing we didn't talk about last week, even though it came out, I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. And then everyone is still talking about it, including even Josh Pate on the on his podcast even brought it up. Tailgating, reserved areas. Jared, I know Nemo's in chat and he's about to give you a whole bunch of crap about how you are going to buy the whole corner and all that stuff. But
so for those that are confused, apparently somebody has started a meme that J-Rod is rich. I'm here to tell you J-Rod is not rich. Because I spent $10 extra to go to the spring game. Everybody's like, "Oh, he's rich." Anyway, so it's one of those things like, look, it's kind of like people are going to be pissed either way, right? Like, that's why I'm so on the fence about it. And I don't want to not give an answer. Swayze says, I call BS. I saw you delivering all those cars for the barbecue. Yeah, I wish, bro. Anyway, yeah, so I do think it's going to be something that's going to be a positive going forward. But like, I understand why people are mad, because it's like some of it is areas that have been kind of known as like a place that's even certain groups hang out and stuff like that. So that's kind of like a little disheartening or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, look, the big schools, Tennessee, Georgia, I think even Alabama, like all the big SEC schools, they charge for plots, and you can still tailgate in other areas. So I'm kind of on the fence. Like I'm not that upset about it. I haven't lost any sleep over it, but I can understand, I guess, both sides of why people would be mad either way.
Yeah. Look, if you are getting upset because the university is trying to make money off of college football, that's the point. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, that's been the game since college football started. The day that college football was invented, it was created to generate revenue for schools. That's the point of college football. That's the point of college athletics as a whole. So that part bothers me. Number two, I think that the biggest kickback is everybody wants to go back to the glory days of Lindsay Street just being a sea of people camping out overnight to get their spot and blah, 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 blah. It hasn't been that in a long time. It's not that now. It's never going to be that again. Like, it's just time to face the reality that there are buildings over there. You got the Walk of Champions over there. That is an area that they are trying to bring all their recruits through when you come over on that side. That's just done. Like,
well, and that's the thing is, like, to me, it's like, it's just not the same anymore. It's been really hard, especially the last couple of years, because OU's had so many home games that have been 11 a.m. kickoffs, right? Which kind of kills tailgating to some degree. And it's like, but I do feel like when we had even like 2:30 games or even, night game or whatever, there was a lot more happening because the students want to get there early for something like that, because when you get your student ticket, you just sit wherever in the student section, basically. So, you want to sit by your friends, you want to sit, in a good seat, then it's like you want to get there early. But yeah, I mean, and just to read some chat, Swayze says, I think some people's anger comes from the sheer lack of trust. They'll keep expanding till public tailgating is done in the Thunder's parking lot. Emo says they're solely pricing out the average fan. That's the part that's crappy.
Yes.
At the end of the day, if people that will make the stadium loud ruckus won't be the ones buying public tailgating spots. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't buy a tailgating spot because I don't live in Norman, and I don't, like, if I'm going to the game, right? Like, so I have no purpose in tailgating. And it's like, it's like, look, let's set up a senior citizens program so that senior citizens can get free plots. Cause like, I will say the most annoying thing is you go to a college football game and there's always, like, without fail, regardless of where you sit, there's some older person that's like, I just wish they would sit down and quit yelling. And it's like, if you want to just sit home in silence and just go watch it in your living room, mute, so anyway, let them tailgate outside so they can be in the peace and quiet while we're all in there just going completely insane.
Yeah. So, and then my last thing is this. This is where I get really frustrated.
Mhm.
The other thing I keep hearing from everybody is we're going to be such a joke when we move to the SEC for this. Like you just said, the SEC's been doing this for years, okay? And I think that's the other thing that OU fans don't have their heads wrapped around. OU is behind from a financial standpoint from all the, like, again, go back to that year that they had that big bump in the donation amount, right, to get your season tickets. OU fans lost their minds about the hike and how expensive. And look, I get it. I can't afford to do that either. But you're telling me that the blue blood Sooner Nation, coast-to-coast fandom that it is for Oklahoma Sooners can't keep pace with Tennessee, who has a 105,000-seat stadium and charges literally 2.5 times the donation amount per
Well,
seat.
that's what I was going to say. It's when you look at things like that, it's like, yes, a price hike sucks anytime that happens, right?
Right.
But it's like, at the same time, you're paying so much less compared to what other, like the top 25 programs, OU's probably like 24th cheapest, right? Like they're gonna be there. It's dirt cheap compared to what it would be for Bama or Tennessee or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like I get it. People get mad anytime anything goes up in price, but it is what it is. It's kind of
right. And this is my point. Like when I looked at Ole Miss's website, their minimum tailgate setup was $1,500. It went up to a minimum on the high end of $5,000. OU is a minimum of $500 and goes up to like what, $2,000, $2,500. Like, and again, I understand I can't afford that, and I'm with Swayze. It prices me out of doing those things. But when I look around the landscape of college football and I see a place like Ole Miss, right? Like that hasn't really been relevant other than Lane Kiffin and Matt Corral this last season. They're charging triple. They're charging triple the amount. And so here's where OU is going to be a joke to the SEC. You're going to be a joke that you don't do it because SEC fans do it. They pay it and they show up. Look, and then the last thing that drives me nuts is this. When people try to compare us to the SEC and go, fans aren't ready. Have you seen Death Valley? Okay, can we just be honest for a second? SEC fans don't understand Death Valley.
right.
Okay, so to compare us to Death Valley is dumb. Those Cajun folks are different to everybody, okay? And by the way, if the charge was $1,700 to show up and drink yourself down and eat crawdads at the stinking LSU game, guess what? They're paying it because they are that rabid for their stuff. No, we're not ready for Death Valley. And no, we're not ready for this. And this is the last little part of my rant, and I'll be done. You and I both, several years ago, you got to go to the Tennessee game, which I'd like to ask about that in a minute.
Okay.
You and I, though, also went to a cousin's house who is a diehard Tennessee alum who came to Norman for the Tennessee game. What was his vantage point of the OU game? What did he tell us? We were both there. What did he say about his experience in Norman coming to an OU football game?
I mean, I guess I don't know which one you're talking about. I know he talked about how friendly OU fans were and how welcoming we were. He talked very highly of OU, like the OU crowd in general. He was like, two very powerful, prominent programs in college football. You would think that there'd be some animosity between the two, even if they don't play each other all the time. And he was like, no, everybody was super friendly.
And he also went on to say, like, even on the message boards, Tennessee fans talked about how great the atmosphere was, how they enjoyed everything about it, and said that they knew that when we came there, they were going to have to step up the game of making it awesome. Is that fair to say that he said those kinds of things?
Yeah.
So stop with when we get to the SEC, we can't keep up. The atmosphere in Norman, Oklahoma is fine. Is it where it can be? No. Could it be better? Yes. Are there some options we could still come up with to make it better? Yes. But this whole notion that, like, we're just pathetic is just not a reality. Even Tennessee fans enjoyed their visit, thought the atmosphere was great, enjoyed the tailgating, and were coming up with plans for the next year when we came to be treated and hosted and have an atmosphere like we did. We're fine.
Yeah, and so into Tennessee's defense, I drove out to Knoxville and got to go to the OU Tennessee game, and I got there like the crack of dawn, dude. I was so early because and when I'm saying like 7:00, right? Like I was down by the tailgating area and it was packed, right? Like it looked like the game was about to start. And what's crazy about it, this is what I told somebody. I said, what's crazy about it is you're walking down there, and I told somebody, I said, it was like a giant like frat or sorority party because it's like they were just like you just walk by and they'd be like somebody like you just literally be walking by a tent, somebody be like, hey, you want a beer? Like no idea who this person is, and they're just like literally throwing out drinks like it's going out of style. And like I said, met some really cool people. The atmosphere, I will say, the atmosphere in there, insanely rowdy. That's the loudest game I've ever been to, probably by far. It was just absolutely insane. It was a great experience. They were extremely friendly. I was a little worried when OU turned it around and won it. That I was like, because what's funny about it, here's what's funny. So I'm sitting in somehow I just bought random tickets, right? Like I literally just bought random tickets off StubHub. Somehow I got in like the 3 rows around me basically were like mostly OU fans. Somehow there's a little pocket of us, and there was of course some Tennessee fans sprinkled throughout there. And like I remember turning to the guy next to me and I said, "Look, dude, if we don't start turning this game around, I'm gonna go to the bar and just get like blackout drunk because this is pathetic, you know." And I was like, "I'm gonna give it one more drive." And of course that's when they started to come back or whatever. And I remember it was, I think, when it got tied up, one of the Tennessee fans turned around and said, "Hey, you mind going to the bar anyway?" Like they were super friendly and playful about it. And like I said, when they left, you know, obviously all the OU fans are going nuts. And they were extremely friendly and all that. But again, to your point though, yes, it was wild and it was crazy, but those guys are paying a ton of money to be down there, that close to the stadium and all those things. And it's just a great atmosphere. Like, honestly, like I'm honestly, that's the one part about going to the SEC that I'm actually excited for and that I want to do. Like, I feel like as brothers, we should do is like check off the schools in the SEC and go to every single school, right?
100%.
Like I want to go. I even want to go to Vanderbilt. You know what I mean, or whoever.
Yes.
Like anybody. Like I don't care who it is. I just want to go see some teams. Because we haven't really. That's the thing is like since we've been in the Big 12, it's like our schedule for the most part has been very localized, right? Like even our non-conference. So I think when we go to the SEC, you're going to see a lot more of playing Notre Dame or whoever. You know what I mean? So you're going to see a lot more of those types of games that were kind of a rare thing at OU.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I want to be clear because I'm with you. I'm on both sides of this. I understand that we're all tired of being nickeled and dimed to death for things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you are talking about the administration trying to make decisions for their organization, if you owned a business and you knew that everybody out there is charging $2,000 for whatever the service is, and then you go back to your books and look, hey, we're charging $600 for this, you're going to up your rates. Like, that's just basic business. I don't love that aspect of it, but that's the way it is, and we got to move on. And again, the SEC is not going to come to Norman and be mad about private tailgate areas. They are going to be pissed and not understand you're not willing to do it, because again, the SEC is willing to do it.
Well, and here's the thing is everybody wants, like all the diehard fan base, especially, this is what kind of cracks me up. Everybody wants more staff, or they want more pay for coaches or facilities, or, whatever, like a million things I could list off. Like, you've got to pay for it. You have to pay for it. And I understand that maybe that's not going to move the needle a ton, but it's like, dude, you have to do things like that to start generating extra income, or you're never going to catch up. Like, as much as OU is not like a slouch, when we go to the SEC, we're going to be one of the least equipped teams as far as facilities and things like that. Like, we're definitely have caught up quite a bit, but there's still a lot of areas that we could improve in and make it a better program, and that we're going to have to, and it's going to cost money. Like, that's just the fact. So yes, I agree. Like I said, I agree. Nickel and diming sucks. Hopefully they don't expand it to an extent to where it's like you can't tailgate
Correct.
without paying. But at the same time, is what it is. Like it's going to have to happen.
Look, here's my deal. Leave it as it is. Just create more public tailgating area. That's it for me, and I'm happy, right? So another couple things coming out of camp. We got to get moving down this thing. Hey, so Steve Sarkisian just handed off a note, I guess, to the student information department and named, hey, we got a starting quarterback, and it's Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Yeah, see, I don't – dude, something just – it's – I don't know. I've seen all kinds of theories about it on Twitter and whatever. Because there was a whole lot of buzz that Hudson Card was going to be the starting quarterback.
Yes.
A lot. And it wasn't just like, some random publication in Lubbock, Texas said it or something. It's like, I'm pretty sure like ESPN and like a bunch of like very well-connected Texas people were saying that Hudson Card had won the job. Right. And obviously then Quinn Ewers the next day is named starting quarterback and everybody's like, what? And of course, and then Quinn Ewers had also posted like 2 or 3 days before, like something.
The night before. No, it was that same night. So as that whole Hudson Card deal got going, the timeline was Hudson Card's going to start. Hudson Card's going to start. Like an hour and a half later, Quinn Ewers comes on. Big news coming tomorrow. And then Sarkisian throws and by the way, Quinn Ewers is going to start.
And like, so in my opinion, it's pretty clear that like the boosters got involved because as much as I think Quinn Ewers is the most overhyped, unproven prospect of all time, maybe. What was it? Tate Martell? Was that the guy that was at like Miami and Ohio State and all them? Like he reminds me of him. It's like he's not proven anything, but everybody thinks he's this generational talent. But it's like, dude, he couldn't even, you know what I mean? Like he couldn't get a starting job at Ohio State. He couldn't get a starting, like he's bounced around, dude. Like, so anyway, it's going to be an interesting thing. I'm not too scared of him, but it was just a whole weird fiasco. And again, to me, it does show a clear connection of the boosters and donors and all that to the program and how much control they can exercise.
Yeah, I mean, that's where my mind originally went as well. The other end of it. So let's just say for a minute that the beat writers were wrong. Okay, let's just assume for a minute that Quinn Ewers really did win this job outright. The only thing that I can come up with that is somewhat plausible that it wasn't boosters is this: that he told Quinn, "Hey, we're going to announce tomorrow you're the starter. You guys get a night's rest, sleep on it, so we can come back and go to work tomorrow." Quinn puts out his tweet about big news coming tomorrow, which was, I believe, linked to a NIL deal. I think there was a move there to be made, and I think it ticked Sarkisian off. And I don't think Sarkisian wanted him to do it like that or to let the cat out of the bag that way. So instead of making a big press conference and a promotional moment, instead, he just went and handed and said, hey, let him know that Quinn, but that's it. Like, that's all I'm going to give him. Even so, that doesn't bode well for your culture, that you've got that kind of stuff going on when it's obvious that's not what you want happening.
It's the crazies are running the loony house. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's you don't want, I would hate to hear that like an OU player made Brent Venables start him because he was throwing a fit, right? Like,
yeah,
or whatever, or was playing some sort of political game. It's one of those things. Like, I don't know. It's a weird deal. It's Texas. It's been a dumpster fire for a decade at this point. And it's again attributed to things like this instance.
Yeah.
Of that just don't make any sense, to be honest. So
yeah. So anyways, well, that's kind of the camp roundup for Big 12 college football. Let's get into a little bit of recruiting this weekend. Makari Vickers will be announcing his commitment. We've been talking about this for weeks. It feels all but sure that he is going to be a Sooner.
It's like the worst kept secret, honestly.
It feels that way a little bit, right? Although we felt that way about Anthony Evans all of a week to 10 days, 14 days ago. And now it's really leaning the other way. Have you heard anything from the people that you've talked to? I mean, I know there's some people on the OU side that still feel like this is an opportunity, but it feels like that's fading with every day.
I mean, I do think momentum shifted, but I don't think, like, again, it's one of those doomsday things that everybody's like, oh God, like we lost him. And it's like, you didn't lose him, right? Like, I think it was probably 70-30 before, 60-40, and now it's like 50-50, right? Like, but you know, it is what it is. Oh, by the way, Nemo asked when we were talking about going to the CC games, I forgot to read this. Sorry. Can I be the adopted brother that goes with y'all? Dude,
yes.
If you pay for your ticket and hotel and everything, y'all can call your brother Seamus. I don't care. Anyway, it's I don't know. I guess I haven't been able to get a ton of information about it. I do think that he's still probably an OU lean. I just think he's less of an OU lean, is how I perceive it. So he's definitely not a lock, so to speak.
Yeah. See, and I feel like it's the other. I feel like he's a Georgia lean at this point with OU still a chance. But again, that's what's making it really hard for anybody to really know. Now, look, Steve Wilfong has crystal balled him to Georgia. That's, It's never good. That's never a good sign. And I want to be clear about this too, for anybody that's going to start going, don't look at this and say, well, there we go. LaDainian Washington can't get it done during the season. There is nothing that I've got that this has anything to do with Washington being the wide receiver coach at all. Now, does Cale not being there have an impact? Yes. Okay. Without a doubt. But I also think that you've got Georgia taking advantage of that situation. They're taking also advantage that one of their receivers that is now in the NFL has just had an incredible preseason. And so you've got this pitch to be able to give of, we develop NFL wide receivers. Hey, OU's got this great track record, but that was with Lincoln, right? And that was with Cale. Those guys are gone now. And by the way, Jeff Lebby's offensive system, we've talked about this numerous times, does not have a great track record of producing NFL wide receivers. It has draft picks. It does not have guys that went to the NFL and really tore it up on the scene. So I think it's just a perfect storm of all that stuff happening that's got this kind of pushing the other way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, I mean, I think there's a lot at play here. And like I said, I definitely think, like I said, it could go either way. I would definitely not be willing to bet money on it at this point. But, it is, like you said, Lebby's offense is not it's same with quarterbacks, even to some degree, right? Like, there's been a lot of guys that have been drafted from that tree of offense or whatever you want to call it, but have not really panned out. So, but again, he's going to prove it. So we're going to see what happens with it. But like I said, I think we're going to know soon. I know that, there's been a couple of the staff have tweeted like basically stuff referring to recruiting and that there's going to be some news soon.
Yeah.
So, which I think part of that is Vickers, but I'm still curious about some other pieces that may fall.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be really interesting. The next couple of weeks in recruiting alone is gonna be put aside the season starting.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be fun to watch.
That Sandlin tweet is the thing that still has me at 50-50, right? Because for him to put that tweet out, it's going to be a really big weekend. It wasn't like we're getting an addition. It wasn't, hey, good news. It was like things are on the way it was worded, it's like, okay, maybe we are getting both of them. I don't know.
And I actually saw somebody like they quote tweeted or something, but they were like, he put two of the little like chart up things or whatever,
Yes.
And like trend up or whatever. And like, through like there's two commits, and I was like, people are reading so into it, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of hilarious, but we'll see. Like I said, definitely, I think we'll find out within a week.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but Stuart Mandel, 7-5 for the Sooners this year. I believe he had them going 5-4 in the Big 12.
Yep.
Was that right? Was that 5-4? Yeah, 5-4.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts?
I mean, look, he's turned into he's always kind of been. He wasn't as bad as Cowturd, but he's pretty bad. Like I think he's just trying to generate clicks. He's just trying to rile a fan base that's notorious for, as OU Twitter is a unique place, right? And it's a unique group of people. So yeah, it's a joke. I mean, nobody's like, if he had said like, oh, I think they could go anywhere from 8-4 to 9-3 or whatever, it's like, I'm okay, cool, like that makes sense. But when I look at the schedule, it's like I don't know, especially as closer we've gotten. It's like I don't know why you would say 7. Like I don't know, it just doesn't make sense.
No, I'm with you. I would just say this: go find his account, find the article about his Big 12 breakdown. Please bookmark it on the Twitter account and have it ready for the receipts at the end of the season. That's all I'm going to say about that whole thing. Is please ratio him in 5 months here when all this is winding down. Moving out of college, and let's get into some NFL talk really quick. Baker is the starter. Huh. Shocker?
Oh yeah, I mean, no. Like I don't know how they weren't. I don't know how he wasn't named starter before preseason game 1, right? Like he's been pretty clearly. I mean, I get that, but you know what I'm saying? Like he pretty clearly was heads and tails above Darnold
Yes.
to start. I really real quick, I just want to know, like, I think we tweeted some stuff back and forth with each other this week. It's like, dude, Cowherd's got to be like, his head's got to be spinning right now.
He's already like rooting for Baker and excited for his new chance and blah. I mean, it's just like, oh, okay. Of course, he never talks about Sam Darnold. Doesn't mention that he's trash. And by the way,
I'm avoiding saying he was wrong about Sam.
And it was awesome because there's a Twitter account, Freezing Cold Takes, that had his whole Sam Darnold was given a second chance, but Baker Mayfield doesn't have a second team. That's because nobody wants him. And then now, like, oh, it was awesome. I would say this. I'm with you. I was kind of a little bit shocked that they didn't name it earlier, but I do think they wanted it to be a legitimate competition. And I would say this: the first preseason game, Baker looked fine. He didn't look great. He looked fine. And I would say Sam looked fine. And so when they didn't announce it, my thought was, well, they're both going to play in preseason game number 2 and give it one more run in a real game scenario and see who comes out on top, right? But then they didn't even play them. I was like, okay, well, then we should have gone ahead and announced it, I guess. So I understood it for that end, but then when they didn't do that, I thought it was weird. But, man, I super excited for Baker. I hope he has a good year. I hope he, shows what he's capable of. Hope he stays healthy and, does what he can there.
Yep. I mean,
sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's gonna be. I'm excited to see what he can do. Obviously, Week 1 versus the Browns is going to be a must-watch game.
Oh
so,
my gosh, that's going to have some ratings to it for sure.
Yep.
The other thing that has really stood out, Troy and I have been texting about this. Have you paid attention to the stat lines, and the articles being written about OU defensive players in the preseason? Because,
look, I mean, dude, it's okay. So let me just put it this way. What's funny is, like, I saw somebody also tweeted out something that was like the Cardinals need to pick these players to have all of the players in the NFL from the 2017 team or whatever it is. And it's like, this is the same squad and players that Lincoln Riley said were only like 3rd or 4th best. It's like, bro, like, you got guys that are balling out right now, like, that are looking like they could be, I hesitate to say superstars, but look like they could be stars in the NFL. So it doesn't surprise me, but at the same time, it's like, I guess it surprised me to what level that they've been impressing, right? Because it's like, it's one thing if, say, Perrion was, getting written up and, like, was getting praised by Cleveland Browns publication or whatever. It's a different thing when it's a national ESPN and whoever are also talking about how well some of these guys are doing. So it's pretty much everybody that got drafted from the defense, to be honest, which is just mind-boggling.
Well, and that's the part that sticks out to me, right? It's not Kennedy Brooks. It's not it's not offensive linemen, although Marquise Hayes had a good camp, obviously, and those kinds of things. But it's defense. It's Brian Asamoah. It's Nick Benito. It's Delarian Turner-Yell. It's Perry. It's Isaiah Thomas. Like, the guys making waves are all on the defensive end, which, again, you and I talked about there was a portion in the season where the defense carried this team last year. Then there was a portion where they were pathetic, and then there was a portion where they were okay again. Like, but, man, just to know that where we were ranked defensively last year and then now to see in the NFL, these guys are all just playing this well. It's just like, man, that team should have been so much better. That team should have been so much better.
If you also go and look at, like, if you also look, though, at guys, like, again, this goes back to the whole Wiley thing. When you look at guys that, like, when they were going into like the combine and all that, they looked completely different, right? In like 2 or 3 months or whatever it is, they looked completely different. They looked way bigger. They looked way stronger. They looked way faster. Like, everything was so much improved that, like, a lot of it I also just think was just strength and conditioning. And now they're getting proper strength and conditioning, obviously, from an NFL franchise. And it's like they're just absorbing it. So
yeah, it's pretty wild. So, all right, just one thing on Thunder news. You need to buckle up, Thunder fans. It's tanking season again. Or at least it feels that way, as it has now been reported today by Shams that Chet has torn ligaments in his foot. He is being reevaluated.
Did they confirm that it was torn? Because the last thing I saw was that they said that they thought it could be, but they were still waiting evaluation.
That's fair. They were still awaiting evaluation. So, but it was really funny. I saw somebody put a meme up in a group deal that I'm in earlier, and it said, Chet Holmgren, what did it say? Like, bumped his foot onto a door, and then it was Sam Presti comes over and examines the foot, and yeah, you're gone for the season, man. That thing is absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's. I mean, we'll see. It sucks anytime, whether it's a torn ligament or not. Foot injuries take so much longer to heal than pretty much any other injury, right? Especially for somebody that's his size.
I was about to say, especially when you're 7'2", it gets way worse trying to deal with all that.
So what's scary to me is it's like all the big guys that have kind of flopped have had those sorts of injuries, right? Like, so even like Yao Ming, who was really good for a few years, it's like that's why he fell off, because he started having foot and ankle injuries and stuff. Just to name somebody randomly popped to my head, but we'll see. Like I said, I'm not going to write off the season just yet. Depending on how quickly he's able to heal, because you also got to think we're a month and a half, 2 months away from season starting. Mm-hmm. So he's got some time to heal. Obviously, that means he's not going to be able to practice if it is a torn ligament. But it's like there's still a chance he could come in that first half of the season at some point and still make a huge impact, and be key to them making a playoff run or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he can. I feel like him, Shea, and Giddey need the time on the court together for sure. Right. But this has that total feel that it's not going to go well, and that it's going to be another long season of trying to get some ping pong balls to land the right way and get a high draft pick. So, kind of bummer news. Definitely not exciting as we approach closer into training camp, but. Again, it's week 0, baby. College football week is here.
Wait. So Sunday, we are doing this podcast Sunday.
Yes.
And I didn't ask this before pod. Is Troy going to be there?
The plan is for Troy to be there. Like, our hope is that Sunday pod, Troy can join in, be a part of it, which, again, especially as basketball season goes, that will be huge. He is much more connected on that front. And so to get kind of some information there will be huge, because both of the – if Chet can get healthy, what a fun fall it should be for Oklahoma sports fans. So hoping to have him there. We don't know exactly 9:30. We'll work all that out, but it'll be evening.
Yeah,
all that good stuff.
So just so everybody knows, just to highlight the live communication, you were like, last I had heard, before today, the last I heard, and I found it out on Twitter in a tweet that you didn't even like quote me in or anything. The last thing I heard was you're like, yeah, I'm going to talk to Troy and see if we can't do it on Sundays. And then I get on Twitter and it's like, hey, we're doing a podcast tonight and Sunday. And I was like, well, that's cool. I guess, I'm pulling a shift Sunday.
We talked about it last week. We did. We talked about it.
No, you told me, you said, I'm going to talk to Troy and confirm. And if so, then we're going to start doing them on Sunday. And I was like, okay, just let me know. Literally I didn't hear anything. And I found it out on Twitter.
I let you know through Twitter. What? Like, that's how the NBA lets guys know they're traded all the time.
You didn't even at me. Like,
you should be following your own account of Just OK Sports.
I am following my own account, but at the same time, if I don't get added, I don't get a notification that says Just OK said you got to work Sunday.
I don't know. I don't really understand.
I just want to highlight. So, the old, I did it today. I changed the intro for us today.
Thank you.
To kind of reestablish that. But now on Sunday, I'm gonna put the older one back.
Oh my gosh.
So
I've got to get this new one done. I have to get this new one done.
What's funny is the other thing is we also have a group chat with me, you, and Troy in it. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm ranting. It's blowing my mind. Anyway, I'll just do our outro.
Again, if you've liked, please leave a 5-star review, leave a comment, follow us, subscribe, do all those things. Oh, and by the way, I told you I would have a date. We have run into a snag, but we are still working with DeMontre Hurst getting with us. I'm hoping maybe Sunday, but we're working on it. So DeMontre Hurst is still totally down for coming on the pod. We just got to get the date set, so I forgot to mention that. So anyways, stick around, 5-star reviews, follow, subscribe, all those good things. And we're having a great time. Hope you are too. I'm Daryl.
I'm just somebody that works here.
And we will talk to you guys later. Bye, Baker.
Cha-ching, it's on your money ball. And you can unhitch the